In 1982, nearly 70 kilos of gold vanished from the heart of Perth. No guns, no masks, no dramatic getaway car, just one of the most controversial criminal cases in Australian history. 3 brothers were blamed, convicted and sent to prison for decades. But 20 years later, their convictions were overturned after shocking allegations of police corruption, fabricated confessions and forged evidence. Who really stole the gold? On June 22nd, 1982, 49 gold bars weighing 69 kilograms disappeared from the Perth Mint in Western Australia. At the time, the gold was worth more than $650,000. Today, that same gold would be worth more than 14 million Australian dollars. The police believe that the robbery was brilliantly planned. According to investigators, stolen cheques from a Perth building society were used to trick the Perth Mint into handing over the gold bullion. The gold was collected by courier, transported through Perth straight to Jandakot Airport.
Some wag in the aviation industry has actually had a little brass plaque put in the bitumen where the gold was last seen before it disappeared into thin air.
And from there, it vanished. The gold was never officially recovered. No mastermind was ever determined, and the case would soon focus on the 3 brothers.
3 brothers, Ray, Peter and Brian Mickelberg, were arrested, convicted and jailed for the heist.
The brothers had already had a reputation around Perth and soon became the centre of one of the largest criminal investigations in Western Australia. The authorities alleged that the brothers orchestrated the entire operation. In 1983, all 3 were convicted. Ray received 20 years in prison, Peter received 16 and Brian received 12. But from the very beginning, the brothers maintained their innocence. They claimed police had fabricated evidence to frame them. At the time, few believed them, but the story was only just beginning. Around the same time, another scandal emerged involving the massive manufactured gold nugget known as the Yellow Rose of Texas. The nugget had been sold to Perth businessman Alan Bond for $350,000. But later, it was discovered to be worth less than half that amount. Raymond Mickelberg and associate Brian Ponzi eventually pled guilty to conspiracy to fraud over the deal. For many people, this reinforced the belief that the Mickelbergs were criminals capable of pulling off the Perth Mint robbery. But supporters argued that the separate cases unfairly poisoned the public opinion against them. In 1986, after serving only 9 months in prison before his conviction was overturned on appeal, Brian Mickelberg died in a light aircraft crash near Canning Dam. The twin-engine aircraft reportedly ran out of fuel before crashing on the outskirts of Perth. Brian's death added another layer of tragedy and mystery to the already explosive case. Meanwhile, his brothers Ray and Peter continued fighting to clear their names. Again and again they appealed their convictions, again and again they lost. But they refused to stop.
Ray Mickelberg, did you do it?
I did not.
But how can you say that when there's such compelling evidence against you?
Simply because I know I did not commit the crime, Richard. It's as simple as that.
Peter, did you do it?
I'm totally innocent, Richard. Totally. And I've been saying that for 10 years. I'll say it for the rest of my life. I am totally innocent of the Perth Mint swindle.
But there was also hard evidence against the Mickelbergs, not just suspicion. Ray's fingerprint was on the back of one of the stolen cheques used in the Mint swindle.
Dip the finger into the rubber.
He says there's a simple, if sinister, explanation. Ray had the unusual hobby of casting things in bronze, like his own hands.
What the result is a silicon finger.
These moulded fingers, part of the process, can be used just like a rubber stamp to leave a fingerprint. Ray claimed that this is the way his fingerprint was forged on the back of the stolen cheque.
Just to show you how good a print that this sort of finger will leave.
But that claim wasn't accepted by the Court of Appeal in 1987.
Then, in 1989, the case took a bizarre turn. 55 kilos of gold pellets, believed to be linked to the swindle, suddenly appeared outside the gates of the Perth television station TVW7. Alongside the gold was an anonymous note claiming the Mickelberg brothers were innocent. The note also alleged that a prominent Perth businessman was the real mastermind behind the robbery. To this day, the identity of the person who left the gold has never been confirmed, and the mystery only deepened. Here, at the Belmont Police Station, the leading investigator in the Perth Mint swindle was Detective Sergeant Don Hancock. Hancock later rose through the ranks to become one of West Australia's most senior detectives. But decades later, the case exploded wide open. In 2002, retired police officer Tony Lewinsky made a stunning confession during a royal commission into the police corruption. He admitted that key evidence used against Mickelberg brothers had been fabricated. According to his statement, confessions supposedly made by Peter Mickelberg were completely false. Claims the statements were invented by police. He also alleged Peter Mickelberg had been assaulted during questioning. The confession rocked Western Australia because if it was true, then the entire case against the brothers may have been built on lies. Before the truth could fully emerge, tragedy struck. In 2001, Dan Hancock and his friend Lou Lewis were killed in a car bomb explosion outside Hancock's home in Lathlane. The bomb shocked Australia and became another infamous chapter in WA criminal history. Then, in 2004, just before he was due to stand trial over fabricating evidence, Tony Lewinsky was found dead in an apparent suicide in his Parmelia home. Both the key figures connected to the case were now gone, but Lewinsky's confession remained, and the courts could no longer ignore it. In July 2004, after several failed attempts, the convictions against Ray and Peter Mickelberg were finally overturned by the West Australian Court of Criminal Appeal. More than 20 years after the robbery, the brothers were legally presumed innocent. Later, the West Australian Police publicly apologised. The state government also offered compensation payments for what officials describe as injustice done to the brothers. But even after the convictions were squashed, the central question remained unanswered. Who actually stole the gold? The Perth Mint swindle became so controversial that books investigating the case were actually banned. Author Avon Lovell wrote The Mickelberg Stitch in 1985, alleging police corruption and fabricating evidence. The police union reportedly raised massive funds to suppress the book and take legal action against its publication. Despite the ban, copies remained available in Perth libraries. Eventually, the ban was lifted. Lovell later released additional books continuing to challenge the official police narrative. For many West Australians, the case becomes symbolic of a dark era in policing. More than 40 years later, the Perth Mint swindle remains officially unsolved. The gold disappeared and confessions were discredited. The police were accused of corruption, and the three brothers spent 9 years in Fremantle prison for a crime they insist they did not commit. Was this an elaborate heist? Was it a police cover-up? Or both? One thing's for certain, the full truth behind the Perth Mint swindle may never be known.
Commander, can I just get a couple of things clear? You were the police officer who interviewed Peter Mickelberg at Belmont in 1982.
Yes, I was. That's myself and Detective Sergeant Lewandowski, I think he was at that time.
When he arrested Peter Mickelberg, Don Hancock was a detective sergeant. Now he holds the rank of commander and is in charge of the Western Australian CIB. Now, would you accept that if page 2 of those notes, the signed page 2 by yourself, had in fact been rewritten after the event, then you perjured yourself?
If they were rewritten after the event, yes, I would probably say that, but they weren't, and I'm not prepared to elaborate on that, but there is a logical explanation for what is being, once again, bandied around by the Mickelbergs, and at the appropriate time and in the appropriate place, the right forum, that explanation will be given.
So would you give us that logical explanation, please?
No, I will not. That's not something to be bandied around in the media. That's for the proper forum at the proper time.
But there are in excess of 6 million Australians watching you now, and you are prepared to wear the accusation that you perjured yourself without putting a counter-argument.
I've worn those sort of allegations for 10 years. Perjury, bashings, you name it, they've alleged it. And as I said before, each and every one of those allegations has been tested in a court of law and subsequently been disproved.
I'm innocent of this crime. I got jailed for 7 years for something I didn't do. From the age of 23 to the age of 30, I lost those years, they're gone. I demand exoneration, and let's see if they've got the courage to say the simple word, we're sorry, because we did the wrong thing.
If you enjoyed this documentary, make sure you subscribe for more untold stories from Australia's gold history.